Okay.
prepared for today. We can talk about whatever we want, which is
I'm
nice.
echoing somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Testing
What's
one,
that?
testing two.
You echoing on me? That was weird.
All right, everybody be quiet for 1 second. Yeah, Paul, it's echoing from you.
That's weird. What's up, Adrian?
Adrian!
What's up? Hey.
How you doing,
Hey.
brother?
Oh, a little bit of an echo.
Yeah, I wonder
Yep.
why that is. Do I have Riverside open somewhere else? Wait, hold on. I think I can fix that. Can't be changed while recording. Talk again, Josh?
Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. Still echoing a little, I think. Maybe not. No, it is still. Wait, it's Adrian now.
Adrian, are you getting the echo too?
I don't hear an echo now.
No, I don't hear an echo off of Adrian now.
Testing one, testing two, testing three.
No, it's gone now.
Okay, well, that's fine.
That was weird. Anyway, hey, we're streaming and recording. Look at that.
Woohoo!
Welcome, everyone, to the
It's
Hacker
like the old
Syndicate.
days, baby.
That's it. Hacker Syndicate
is.
beta live stream. Wonder how long we're going to call it beta.
3, 4 years.
3, 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Well, hopefully everyone's able to tune in. I did start advertising this in some other Discord channels. So
Okay.
hopefully get a few more viewers. Dude, it was weird. When I tried to connect to Twitter, I got that weird message that, like, in the XML, it would look like an XML JSON response. And all the stuff was about ice cream. I think there was something on Twitter's end, and that must be one of their, like, weird error messages.
And it
Very
says in there, this page is down. But yeah, then I scream, you scream, we all scream for us to fix this page. We'll stop making jokes and get things up and running soon.
Yeah, well, they didn't, so
They did not.
yeah. Soon is a relative term, I guess. So what's everyone been up to and working on?
Oh man. Well, for the CMMC world, it's CEIC West right now out in Vegas. I'm not out there, but I've got some people from my company out there, so we're dealing with the weirdness of CMMC.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good Lord, what else? I'm trying to deal with hardware bill of materials and defining terminology and making a living at some point in there, it's a detail.
That's
Right.
important.
That's important.
Living is good.
And I have too many fucking projects. Oh my God.
There's a lot to talk about with vulnerability management, Paul.
Really?
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I thought we were
Give me
done
an
talking
L.
about vulnerability management.
Give me an E. Give me a V.
Nope. Just getting started.
I mean, I work there. A lot of other smart people smarter than me work there. I thought we solved it. What's HD's take on the vulnerability management?
That's part
He's
of it.
got like a really.
That's part of it. So he has takeover plans. He has disruption
yeah.
plans.
Yeah. He's kind of
Yeah.
like
So
he's kind of like Richard, right? Like IDS is dead, and HD's I feel like has this like VM is dead.
So my prediction is that we're at the beginning of a McAfee semantic moment for
Yeah.
QRT for the Qualys Rapid 7 Tenables.
I like that QRT. I like that.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
what is
that's
it? It made sense when you said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's generally what I call them, talking about the big three. But they've had all the time in the world. They gave birth to an entire market of products that are more expensive than their products to fix the problems that they created. So the whole risk-based vulnerability management market, right? Everything from Brinqua to Kenna, Nucleus, Vulcan Cyber, like that whole Vicarious, that whole market existed just because of the mess that they built this haystack. And
Right.
admit themselves, only 1% of this stuff is important that we're going to tell you about.
Right.
And
Well, I'd
and
argue
Tenable
the-
just acquired Vulcan Cyber.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, a couple months
that was
ago.
Only
Really?
that was only a matter of time. It probably happened before where they acquired companies that were analyzing the VM data.
Okay.
But I think it's too little, too late. And so here's what's happening is these products, if you scan a network with Ubiquiti devices, all three of them, Rapid7, Nexpose, Nessus, Qualys will tell you, looks like an out-of-date Debian server. That's the best they can tell you. Even though the MAC address is Ubiquiti, there's Ubiquiti services running on it that will tell you what model device it is, tell you exactly what the thing is. Nobody's written a parser for it. They just haven't bothered.
Right.
So they can't identify, outside of your Windows, Mac, Linux. They don't really do a good job of it. And guess what you have nowadays on all your Windows, Mac, Linux workstation server devices? You've got EDR that also does vulnerability management now.
Interesting.
So CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Microsoft Defender, they all pull that software information, that vulnerability information. They tell you what patches you're missing. So RunZero just posted a blog post. So earlier, I saw that they added CVEs to RunZero because I used the community edition at home, and I was like, "Ooh, this is spicy!" Like they could be gearing up, and we talked about it in the podcast. I said they could be gearing up to replace the incumbents here, and sure enough, I'm trying to pull it up now so I can tell you the title of the blog post. But yeah, they basically said that in their blog post. They suggest using them instead of a traditional infrastructure vulnerability scanner plus your EDR. That it's better to actually know what your assets are and identify the assets themselves, and then maybe use more of a vulnerability intel approach to vulnerability management, which instead of waiting for a scan to tell you, you know what devices you have. You're just looking for announcements about vulnerabilities on that device. So you basically take action as soon as the vulnerability is disclosed, not as soon as a scan 2 weeks later comes back and tells you you've got a problem.
It's interesting.
So that's what's going down. Between that, CrowdStrike now has a network scanner. I think Microsoft does as well. And most of these things are based on nuclei. We're seeing, slowly seeing them move from complementary to this stuff, which is the same thing we saw with Cylance and CrowdStrike and SentinelOne. They're quickly going from being complementary to Qualys, Tenable, Rapid7 to replacement.
That's interesting. I could actually do that with the Eclipsium product using Nmap and nuclei. I haven't tested nuclei yet. None of this is anything new.
So what can you do with it? What can you do with the product?
It's not a product pitch, but so you use open source software. So you start with Nmap, and then you glom on the Vulner scripts.
Right.
And so one of the things I haven't published yet is I built a multi-stage Docker container and I talked about this in a tech segment years ago, but I updated it so the container is much smaller because I throw away my build environment and I give you the latest version of Nmap with the latest version of Vulners. So that runs Nmap. And then you can also do nuclei. So where I left off was you can run nuclei probably in a different container. I would probably do a separate container for nuclei and pull in the latest templates into that container and run nuclei. And then one of the things like the Eclipsium product does is you can integrate those tools into our end scanner endpoint sensor, and it'll pull in all the vulnerability and asset results into your enterprise console. So like I'm looking at our data that would normally, like our data comes from an agent that you run on the system, takes a dump to the spy flash, puts it in there, but you can now import your network scanning results using open source tools.
Okay.
And it's still I wouldn't call it beta, right? Because there are some customers using it, but it's pretty well tested. I haven't tested the nuclei.
Well, no, but here's the point. What you're talking about is a fantastic conglomeration of tools. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But we need to go farther. Like the problem is that vulnerability scanning is a very, very narrow slice of what you actually have to do.
Yeah.
And Adrian, I mean, I'm happy to step back and let you take this part. But like in all seriousness, it goes from threat intelligence, it goes from asset discovery and asset management, it goes to vulnerability, it goes to risk, it goes to patching. There's a whole slew of individual little siloed things that should all be in a single or a couple of products or a process or something like that. Even take one piece of it, threat intelligence. We always complain, oh, the fire hose, it sucks, it's horrible, it's got it. Well, yeah, but you take the fire hose and you split out looking at your assets, what you care about. That's what SBOMs are supposed to be able to do with you, right? And so now I have threat intelligence that's filtered down by my SBOMs and HBOMs. Now I then look at my vulnerability scans and I correlate them all together. And, this should be a process that any one of these things shouldn't be $1 million friggin' dollars.
But it's interesting. I like what HD is saying, because the more I think about it now, it's not about like, do I have vulnerabilities and scanning for individual vulnerabilities. It's more about like, what do I have isn't running the latest version.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what are you gonna do if you find vulnerabilities?
So
You're gonna take that software to the latest version. So like, just tell me what's out there and not on the latest version.
yeah, so yeah, and really the question behind it is, so there's two questions behind vulnerability management. Are we hardening and configuring things correctly? So those aren't software bugs, right? Those are just
Right.
mistakes you've made in setting the stuff up.
I once said
and then
configuration leads to
That's your
compromise.
infra and your dev teams. I mean,
Yeah.
that's nothing to do
Right,
with your
and-
teams.
And then you have what assets do I have? Are owners assigned to them, and are those owners correctly maintaining them?
Right.
Those are the two big things, and all vulnerability management is doing is reporting on those two things going wrong.
Adrian, it almost sounds like compliance what you're talking about.
But the nice part about the
It's
VM
process and
C
procedure.
word, dude.
but the
Well,
nice part
compliance
about-
again is just measurement of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're on the same page. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
VM
I'm just
lets
making
me
fun.
lets me do that cross-platform. If I've got Windows, Mac, and Linux in my environment, I can put their agent on all three of those platforms and get all that vulnerability information.
Yeah.
That's really what is keeping them afloat today, if you ask me.
So there's one other piece to that though. And we've harped on this for years, is that okay, we got these systems, there's n vulnerabilities on them, of which some cube root of n will actually ever be exploited vulnerabilities, and of that set, how many of them matter, because you've got the context in which they're held.
Good.
So I've
point.
also been doing research on that, and,
So-
and it's less than 100 a year.
Yeah,
Are
so
the
my
actual
question-
vulnerabilities with CVs that tied to them, less than 100 a year? In hindsight, we actually see causing damage and
Oh,
representing
really?
risk.
So
And does that
so-
does that take into account the mediums that are strung together?
Good question.
Yes.
It would.
Yeah,
right?
that would take
So-
those into account. Yep.
So that's what I was starting earlier, is I was asking if you heard of this likelihood of exploitation metric they're coming up with.
I
no.
have not.
Yeah, I just caught this morning. They have just has a white paper on it. Dark Reading has an article on it, among other places. But it's basically they have a formula for the LEV.
And the keyboard sound.
Yep.
Yeah, I like
and,
Adrian's keyboard sound.
Basically,
looking
what
at
it does is it takes the NV, the National Vulnerability Database, the known exploited vulnerabilities, and there's a couple other sources that you
Yeah.
pull in there, and the LEV calculation is actually a Python script, so you can run it locally. What they're at now is, and this is brand new. The
See-
idea then is to come up with which of these tens of thousands of vulnerabilities are likely to be exploited. Kev isn't broad enough.
Well,
uses
Kev is not
EPSS,
likely.
which is-
Kev is it's happening.
Right.
Right,
So
like
that's
that's the
good.
thing that
That's
bugs
good.
me about
Trailing indicator,
EPSS and this stuff is
Kev-
like you've passed prediction when you're
Right.
talking about
Right.
we're seeing it exploited right now.
Yeah,
No,
EPSS.
Kev is
a-
actually not even that. Kev is it's been exploited and there's a patch.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's some type of remediation. They make
Yeah.
Workaround
Patch it or
patch.
turn it
some-
off.
something.
if they're like, there's no patch for this IoT router, don't have it in your environment, is the remediation.
Yeah,
So-
this is true.
But my point was, it was taking multiple sources, including EPSS, and there's a dialogue out there about whether EPSS is good enough, and the NIST white paper says it wasn't really good, but they've done a bunch of work to improve their metrics. we think it's all
Yeah.
right. But what we want to do is take the Lev calculation we got and then work with partners that have history on what vulnerabilities are exploited and see how we match their real world data, you know, in terms of what we're predicting, as opposed to doing it in a laboratory or in a vacuum or whatever. Pick your phrase. It doesn't matter. I like that. They want to see how useful it is. I'm actually kind of excited at this because we've said, how do we know what's going to likely be exploited? Is it going to be perfect? No. Will it help? I think so.
Yeah, it's. I do like Kev, though. I still see vulnerabilities I like to call root to get root vulnerabilities, right? Where the prerequisite to use the exploit is the access that the exploit gets you, which usually privilege escalation stuff. So that's usually like my temperature check, my kind of bullshit check on some of these things. Like, do they tell me these are being exploited in a while? Because no attacker would ever use these exploits because they don't gain them anything.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like the new WordPress vulnerability. There's a WordPress vulnerability. One plugin allows you to set somebody's password because it doesn't check properly. Then another vulnerability allows you to do privilege escalation. So while you need an account to escalate the privilege, here's this thing over here they probably have that'll let you get the account. But if I have to start with having root, isn't it kind of game over because I got root?
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Well, I mean, it's the reason we've never seen any of the TLS SSL vulnerabilities used in an actual attack, right? Like if I am in a position where I can read your network information, where I'm in line with your network, there's other attacks I can do.
Yeah.
Right.
I think,
or
the
maybe I'm already on a device on your network.
We were talking
And that's
about the
why
latest,
Adrian still runs SSL2.
we were talking about the latest speculative execution vulnerabilities in Intel processors.
Yep.
And that falls in the same category for me.
It irritates me to no end.
Where in the wild
All those
have we
vulnerabilities
ever
have done is cause damage.
is causing performance impacts.
Right. Like discovering the
patches-
vulnerability. But what are you going to do? Right. Like it's the same thing with the post quantum stuff. Like we have to update our encryption, but at the same time, it's only likely to just cause expense and disruption.
I've never
You
heard
know,
of those attacks being used in the wild. And
No,
I
they
ask
haven't.
every now and again, right?
Yep.
So us sitting here, I haven't heard anything new of an attacker doing that in the wild. Now, the ZenBleed vulnerability in AMD processors, that was bad.
Mm-hmm.
That one I could see being used in the wild. I tested in my own system. I was able to read memory I shouldn't be able to read and pull in a password. And then a microcode update came down and it fixed it, and everything was great. So
And the other thing that makes this difficult is maybe you have to update that CVSS 2 because the next 10 relies on it, right? So just updating software is just a thing you have to do in your systems.
right.
Like the new Spectre updates for Intel motherboards, like you won't have a choice to not install that because it's just going to come in a roll up for all your motherboard firmware, right? Like that microcode update's just going to be bundled in there. It's like on our phones. Like there was a company called Mobilisafe or something like that Rapid7 acquired, and all they did is they'd scan your Android and iOS and tell you what CVEs you had on it. I was like, what's the point of this? Like I can't patch a CVE on my phone. Like Verizon gives my Motorola phone an update when they feel like it, and it's going to have updates for 1,000 security fixes all at once. Like that's just, not thinking about how remediation happens is one of the issues here.
Right.
Well, yeah. I guess there's also the business of, pick your battles. You need to have stuff that you're just summarily pushing the patches out. You're not
just
not
automate
thinking
it.
about it because
For a lot of devices?
Because for the important shit, you don't have enough time already, right?
Yeah. Yep. And we're seeing a lot of organizations do that where for the stuff that they can get away with, like, worst case scenario, somebody uninstalls a patch or, undoes a change they make on a workstation or something like that. They look at their environment, say, okay, which of these devices can we convince the asset owners to just check the box for automated updates? And then that stuff, like, we don't have to spend a bunch of time pushing to test groups and analyzing the vulnerabilities. We're just going to update it as soon as it comes out. Like, who tests Chrome, right? Like, you just restart your browser and you get a new version of the browser, right?
That's what I do. But it's hard. Like, my personal Linux systems, I do that, but it's hard if you've got tens of thousands of Linux systems. I'm sure you've got
Also-
much more automation in a more stable environment than a desktop environment to update.
Well, yeah, there's also things you can do, like if you do a managed Chrome, you can say automatically push it, but give the users 72 hours to click the update browser or whatever. Pick some value. So they got this little alert, and you can send them notices that they won't read, but you can do things, but you put a time limit on it, and you say, hey, this is it.
Yeah.
But, so
Or,
if you're
or
in
force
the
a
middle, your
reboot
head's
every 3
down,
days or something.
if your head's down, it's not instant. You got time to relax. And there's some people that are going to say, why wasn't that done 5 minutes ago? I should have had this update already. And the others are like, 72 hours. I need 72 weeks, right? But whatever.
But computers are so good at recovering after rebooting these days. Like it used to be, you'd lose a bunch of data and stuff like that if you lost
Right.
power to your box. But these days it's saving your tabs. Your documents were auto-saved. Everything was in the cloud anyway, so it doesn't care that your computer rebooted. I think it's a lot easier to get away with like requiring, and if you require a reboot every 3 days, you probably reduce your tech support calls too, because it's just
Yeah.
going to naturally fix all kinds of other shit too.
Oh, I was talking about that on Manjaro. When you update the kernel before you reboot, oftentimes it won't recognize any new USB devices.
Yes,
so
I've
the
learned
reboot?
that.
Because I've literally been
Oh,
pulling my
you
hair
have to
out.
reboot to get it to? Oh, that's
Yeah,
weird.
So, like a regular,
Oh.
like a storage device, I'm like, well, that's super weird because that should just pop up. But when I was doing, if I like plug in an ESP32 and I want a bootloader mode, and I gotta hit buttons, I'm like, is it me, or is it the system? And then you do research, like, why isn't this device showing up?
It's always
And
Paul.
then reboot, and everything's fine.
So
now
the
I
only
know.
time
Kernel
The only
updates,
time-
reboot.
Yeah, the only time I've experienced that is on Macs, because they have additional. They've got like these soft, what do you call it? Like breakers, like fuses,
Yeah.
where they will turn off a USB port if they detect like a surge of power, and you don't get that USB port back until you power the system off and back on again. Yeah, that's how you have to reset it. So I wonder, do you know if you have any kind of like protection circuit in there that's maybe getting triggered by something that you're plugging
it
in?
could be. I think the USB
Oh,
bus
that's a
on
good
this
point.
the USB bus on this computer is pretty finicky. Like I had a lot of issues with my audio devices.
But
and
you're
I
going to be plugging in weird shit that other people don't plug
True.
in also.
that too. But like even if I
That's my
unplug,
point here.
if I unplug all my weird shit, like just my audio device, I was like, what is going on? I
Yeah.
updated my BIOS and it fixed a bunch of those issues for me.
Nice.
And I was, of course, blaming Linux, as one does, especially when it's an audio device, because the audio's still hot. Well, it's actually better. I mean, that's the premise of my talk is things are better on the Linux desktop than they were even 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We've seen significant
When are you giving that talk? Remind me where
June 4th at RVASec.
Nice.
RVA sec. That's right.
So, I mean, one of the interesting behaviors I've noticed is in certain update scenarios with Firefox, it'll get to the point where it won't work as a browser anymore until you restart it. It says basically timeout, I need to restart. And it's like with Chrome, I know I can just like keep cruising along with that update going, but with Firefox, it's like at some point it'll go,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
You got to restart me. Yep.
And I almost over reboot on my whenever there's OS type updates of any caliber. I don't know Linux. I'm just too used to reboot just to be sure.
Yeah, Microsoft does it automatically these days. At some
Right,
point
yeah.
with Windows 11, like
it's just-
I'll come downstairs to jump on my computer, and I'll notice that it has, because it starts up a bunch of stuff that I kill as soon as they start up. I just need to remove some of my startup items. And
Oh yeah, you need the what is that called now? The
sysinternals.
there's a Windows 11 installer that lets you highly customize the installation and disable a whole bunch of built-in software.
Oh yeah,
Now I can't find it.
yeah. There's a
I can't
sysinternals
remember what it's
tool
called.
I
It's like
use just to manage the stuff that starts up at startup. But I'm not digging too deep into the OS to switch stuff off.
I've noticed that my Windows 11 system I have here in a VM, it's like I go and look and see if it's been up. It's like, here already updated, dude.
Yep.
Cool. I don't use that system for much. I don't know how disruptive.
I think that was huge for security when they started doing that.
Yeah.
And they've gotten away with it. It seems like that was the first thing I was wondering. There is, are they going to get away with just automatically rebooting people's stuff? And I've never heard anybody complain about it.
Well, you can set the hours that you don't want to be rebooting and stuff in there. If you do it, you can say, hey, I'm working 9 to 5, but okay at 2 a.m. I don't care. But yeah, it's just nice to see that going on. I mean, I used to be out there proactively making sure I was getting those damn updates. The only trick is now with the latest. I can't remember the number. The latest Windows 11 update includes the recall.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
If you
I
have
thought
the
they were only
NVMe
pushing that out to early access at this point.
No, they've got it in the mainstream, but you have to have the right hardware, I think is what Josh
it's
was
the
saying.
NPUs, the neural processing unit.
Oh yeah, only the Copilot branded
Yeah,
PCs
the
get
Copilot
it.
Well,
branded,
it's still
exactly.
opt-in,
Exactly.
but it's
So I
still,
found I couldn't think of this on the show. Well, let me share my.
It was only ARM-based systems, not x86.
well,
Yeah, so it's called
Which I do not have.
Schneegans. Schneegans.de allows you to in this website.
Supposed to be shenanigans.
Maybe
that was what I was thinking.
auto
Oh, it's German.
unattend.xml file for Windows 10 and Windows 11, and I mean this thing goes on and on and on. It bypasses the account thing, so you don't need a Microsoft account.
Right.
You can tweak policies, you can customize your search bar, and then you can disable a whole bunch of stuff in Windows,
Oh wow.
and then you can visual effects. There was like an applications one, where you could tell it right here, remove bloatware. That's the one I love. So you can select all, and it won't install.
Yeah, Clipchamp and all that shit.
all
Yeah.
that crap.
Recall is on there.
Yep.
As
Isn't
is
that awesome?
Copilot, yeah.
I mean, this is what so many Windows users want. When I talk about Linux,
Yeah.
and people are like, "Oh, I like Windows," but also admit like there's a bunch of stuff I wish Windows didn't have.
Also, I always found the Xbox stuff weird because like you'll be sitting there on a business PC and it recommends you
Xbox
use.
apps. Right.
Like it starts pushing Xbox. Like
Yeah.
you get a reminder about whatever their monthly subscription is, their Game Pass thing. And I'm like,
imagine-
why am I getting that on a work machine?
I imagine
Just-
Microsoft's not going to include Skype anymore.
No,
It's
No,
dead.
Skype's dead.
Yeah.
It's dead. Yeah.
yeah, I imagine some. Yeah, so when it says Windows Mail and Calendar, that's that old built-in POS thing they had, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of those things they've updated, like Windows Paint is like some of those actually keep getting better and better. Like they made some huge updates to Notepad even, believe it or not.
Yes, it's surprisingly good.
So look out, Notepad++.
No,
Not that cool yet.
Yeah, Copilot is built into Notepad now. You can have
What?
Notepad
Oh, Copilot's built into
rewrite
everything.
your text.
Oh, that's
It's a
interesting.
plain text editor with an AI.
Ooh.
AI text.
Yeah,
is
it's
the
just
only-
text transformation, but yeah, that could be
No, I mean,
useful.
yeah, I need all the help I can get, but the
Change format.
yeah, I mean, again, and the nice thing is that you can do a select all and just unpick the things you actually want to leave alone and let her rock. As I remember going through working with the help desk with the bloatware that had somehow wound up on my work machine.
Can you
And
guys see that? So if you
Yeah.
put something in the chat, you can show it on the live stream.
nice.
Pretty cool.
Oh, wait.
if we do?
Automatically, or is this something
No, you have
choose
to click the thing. Yeah. So when you make a message in the chat, you can hover over it, and you can say how long, and then you can say show on stream, and it'll do a pop up.
I can't. I think only you can.
Yeah, I think only you
Oh,
can.
maybe only me.
It's not working for me. I think only you can do that.
I can show this thing too. Yeah, that website is just a copy of my other website,
Got it.
but you can put like things in the bottom.
Nice.
Yeah,
But
it's
I did put the link to that Run Zero blog in there, and that blog is titled "Ditch Vulnerability Scanners: A Smarter Approach to Exposure Management with Run Zero Alongside Endpoint Agents."
all right, so let's get
Nice.
back to vuln management because I think this is an interesting one. I think the point I'm making, and maybe Adrian, I don't know if we agree or disagree. I think we're close to agreement, is that the silos of vuln management and threat intelligence and patching and configuration and a lot of things are going to be collapsing, and you're going to start seeing either products or services or systems that are designed to boogie through that whole thing very quickly and as expeditiously as possible because we spend so much time, so much money, so much effort on this, and we gain and garner not so little reward, but so little perceived value. Does that make sense?
From are you talking about the monitoring piece or the patching piece,
Yes.
or both?
Or
Okay.
do you mean when you add up all the bits you have to do by separately now versus the ROI, it just shrinks?
It doesn't make sense.
I think it's going to remain separate products, and this is the same reason why I think a lot of organizations, it's fine that you have multiple asset databases because different people need different things out of those asset databases.
I'm good with
the
that.
cyber security folks need different stuff than the folks managing laptops, right? And we can't even get organizations down to a single MDM. I still see a lot of places that have like Kanji or Jamf for Macs, and then Intune. Intune does Macs, but doesn't have all the features you might want, right?
It's kind of bad at Macs. In fact,
So
talking to Microsoft, they said, stop asking us, go get Jamf and it'll work for you.
So where that remediation happens, because the asset owners are scattered around, I think they're each going to have their own products to do it.
So what do you do? Do you get Run Zero with Automox, and that's your VM?
Oh.
Right. Run Zero to find stuff, and Automox to apply all the patches.
Yeah, I mean, for patch automation, I do see people looking for stuff that can touch more things.
I mean,
It
Automox
just
is
depends
one-
on your environment,
Just
right?
one vendor, right? I mean, you can you can
Wait.
use Avanti's endpoint manager if you want. If you want
in a lot of
vulnerabilities
cases-
with it.
In a lot of cases, you don't get to choose, right? You're not the one buying the patch
Yeah.
solution; it's coming out of somebody else's
Somebody
budget.
else, right? So
That's
very
not even
well
your
could have
option.
Yeah.
it.
Right.
What is Avanti's endpoint
Uh,
manager and EPA?
They acquired a couple companies there.
couple. Mobile
Shavlik,
Iron was one of them.
Shavlik was the patch
Shavlik,
management
and-
one.
Yeah.
Didn't they acquire
Landesk,
Landesk?
that's the one that
Yeah.
does the
Yeah.
pushing out packages and
Correct.
patches for you, similar to, was it SCCM was the Microsoft
Yes.
one? Did I get
Yeah.
that acronym even
They're
close to right?
cross-platform patch
Yeah.
management solutions.
So it's like
And there's a
like
bunch
you
out
can
there. We're
do
missing
you
a
can do
bunch.
vulnerability management on a mainframe, right?
Yeah.
But it's not any vendor that you've ever heard of.
No.
Right. So I don't think we ever get down to single pane of glass for that, except for the monitoring side. So we do see the Jupyter Ones, the Exonius, and Run Zero is also in this category, where it integrates with 100 other different things to pull all that information into one place for the security people.
Right.
So, I mean, you said single pane of glass a minute ago, and I was thinking about the old argument. Do you implement all the best of breeds, or do you buy the one that does pretty much most of what you need? Is that still a concern anymore? I mean, it really sounded like you had a bunch of best of breeds out there a minute ago. And
Yeah. We're seeing more people push for platforms because layoffs, and they don't have enough people to manage the overhead of having a whole
Right.
bunch of point products, and the platforms are pretty decent. It used to be a platform wasn't really a platform. It was just a discounted price you get on a bundle of disconnected software, right? Just because a company bought a bunch of other companies didn't mean it was all integrated and you could call it a platform. But today, these are legit platforms where you're not jumping between 6 different consoles to manage all
Yeah.
the tools in the platform.
Because there's new platforms coming out that use LLMs to help you prioritize the remediation. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
that Run Zero tells me what I have. Automox
Yeah.
tells me what I need to patch, and you API integrate that with a new tool that analyzes it with an LLM, and it goes, "Here's your plan of what you need to do."
Yeah, and I still see patching and the monitoring piece being disconnected, right? Like those are, I still see the vulnerability management piece, the configuration management piece, the posture management piece. These
Yeah.
are just looking for gaps.
Yeah.
Like you find a machine that's 5 years out of date. You don't just tell somebody to patch that. You go figure out what processes, like something is seriously wrong. There's no asset owner assigned to it. People have forgotten about it. Like it's just getting missed
That should
entirely.
be the highest priority, based on age,
Yeah.
right? The
Or
oldest
the asset owner
vulnerabilities.
doesn't do that job anymore. They're still a valid person, but I haven't
or
worked
maybe
there for
that
how
thing just
long?
needs to be removed. Nobody's even
Yeah.
using it anymore, right?
Wah-ha-ha-ha-ha.
But your vulnerability
That's happened
management solution
once.
comes back with a quarter million critical vulnerabilities. Like my goal is to figure out, okay, how are these all related? Because sometimes you look at them and you find out, oh, this 250,000 is just update Microsoft Office and update Java. You know, literally, like you can get up to that number with those two problems across just a couple thousand machines. And then sometimes it is one of those root cause things where you find out, oh, like nobody's managing this thing because this guy left and nobody reassigned his job to somebody else. So just nobody's been doing it.
Right.
And of course, yeah. And of course, then there's also the context of that particular system with that vulnerability, right? Oh, it's my entry point for my public-facing ERP system. That might be more important than, I don't know,
Yeah.
thing that's behind 7 layers of protection that sits on my desk or something.
Yeah, you gotta have a good. I mean, vulnerability management hooks into so many things. I was talking to advising an IONS client a couple months ago, and I just had them show me their screen because they said they were buried in spreadsheets doing vulnerability management. And you could clearly tell from the names of the hosts in this spreadsheet that these were external-facing web servers. But they're running cups. I'm like, what the hell is cups doing on a web server, right? And it turns out that they just have default Red Hat
Installed by
Enterprise.
default. Yep.
So nobody's done any kind of cleanup, hardening, removing all the unused, unnecessary software. I'm like, immediately you're going to see like a 90% drop in your vulnerability management stuff
Just
because
like
you're
they
no
did
longer
with me.
going to be patching 14,000 packages that nobody's using,
Now,
right?
Am I
So like
remembering
it hooks
that
into so many other things.
There used to be, it's been a while since I've done a cold Red Hat install, but and some other Linux too. It's like, what if you're building a web server? It's a completely different package set than if I'm building a desktop, and
Yeah, they give you templates. I
start
use
there,
Ubuntu server for my
it
Linux servers
tears it down.
primarily, right?
Yeah,
It
but they-
gives you like I always do the minimum install and don't install anything unless in that list they're like, oh, you can install Docker. I'm like, I'm gonna need that on that system, so
Yeah,
install
but
it.
in the
But it
enterprise,
doesn't install
nobody's
anything else.
installing like that, right? Like nobody's going
they're
through a
doing it,
wizard
install everything
and
they might maybe
deselecting.
need.
They're going into vSphere and they're right clicking and saying duplicate,
Oh, okay, never mind.
So you
Even
got to get
different than
back
I
to the
thought.
original
right?
template.
Or just pulling an image, just pulling a
Right,
some base image somebody
for
built
crowd.
3 years ago.
Right.
I-
The
I
base
guess
Get
it's
image
proud
has
to let
to
the
be
word,
hardened.
Adrian.
I used to have a mindset with, particularly with Linux, but install all the things I might maybe need so it could do everything without a whole lot of fuss,
Right.
without consideration to the security of that
Yeah.
Yeah,
decision.
Back up-
I was
back
a
up
lot
a step,
younger.
though.
I mean,
Back up a step though. What's this going to do for the SMB market? This consolidation and silly puttying of the vulnerability management threat intel. Look,
yeah.
and I know I'm harping on this, but I'm really curious about how this is going to affect the SMB market. Are we actually going to see a tool or set of tools, valid, that could be for relatively inexpensively put into the SMB market and actually made it so that they can have something that's valid and worthwhile and does good stuff?
That they could afford.
Yeah. So yeah, Run Zero. Like I'm running the free version right now, but very affordable. Designed for the entire market. Definitely you'd never see the SMB being able to afford like a Kenna or something like that. Like
Right.
those are easily in the 5-digit range.
Well,
just to
yeah.
start.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think even the vulnerability tools, like they've gotten more expensive, but I think you can still get a like $2,000 a year Nessus scanner or something like that, like Nessus Professional or Pro or whatever they call it.
I think that's gone.
But there's no, they keep it around. They change the name of it. Sometimes they make it hard to find, but I'm pretty sure
I
it's still
noticed
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Cool.
each of them have something like that. Yeah, there's an open source. Do you guys know Matt Toussaint?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Open security.
Yeah.
So he built something called Sirius Scan. That's built on top of Nuclei. That's basically an open source infrastructure scanner.
I've seen some other stuff he's built. I bet it works pretty good. Just from my experience with Matt.
Yeah, let me find it real quick here. And it's all open source.
Of course, that's his style.
Yeah, I'm running it here at home in a container.
Mm-hmm.
Let me drop it there. But yeah, to answer your question, Josh, I'm curious. Let me go to CrowdStrike's website and see how much you end up having to pay before you get to like the. I wonder if it's only the enterprise version where you get to the vulnerability management stuff.
CrowdStrike does have an SMB offering. I haven't
Yeah,
looked at
but
exactly
Yeah,
what's
but
in it
they're
in
not going to help
forever.
you with your ubiquity problem.
Yeah, I
No.
think it.
Which I don't understand why the EDR vendors haven't delved into helping you with your EDR on Linux and appliances.
That might be
That's
something
what
to have a conversation.
Sandfly is actually really cool, and we do a lot of similar things. Like if we were to support Eclipse and support Ubiquity the way we support other platforms, which we could, we could tell you if you're running the latest version of the firmware.
I
Right?
will
And we
say,
could, if we can log in via SSH, now we can tell you all kinds of stuff like, hey, do you have TinyShell backdoor on it? That's the kind of like gap I think there is. It's interesting. Adrian and I haven't talked about this. I think there's still a big gap in the market for EDR for your appliances and even Linux.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you don't
CrowdStrike
get-
will do Linux, but not on an Ubiquity or
no.
Sophos
And
device.
Just a quick rant. AV and EDR are not the same thing.
No.
Yes, agreed.
At some point, people started saying EVR when they mean anti-malware, and like the two have just kind of converged into. But even if you like, I'm looking at CrowdStrike's website here, with their first two products. If you go up in price, it goes Falcon Go, Falcon Pro, then Falcon Enterprise. You don't even get the EDR piece that collects data. Yeah, EDR is mainly detection and a little bit of response until you get up to the Falcon Enterprise, which is like triple the price of Falcon Go. So that's not what SMBs are using.
So they're just using the anti-malware threat detection.
Yeah, and it is EPP. So even at the cheapest one, you still get device control, you still get mobile device protection, and then you step up from $60 a device per year to $100 a device per year, and you get firewall management and yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
the
and there's a
main
big
thing there.
difference between protection and detection. Like prevention, that's your
Yeah, and
anti-malware should prevent and quarantine. But
And it makes
like,
sense, right? Because you might have devices that can't handle EDR, because
Right.
it's additional performance requirement there, and you only want to put AV on it.
Right. In these appliances and devices, it's hard to do the prevention aspect because the platforms are so different and locked down. But where like us and Sandfly are playing in is we can tell you if there's an active threat on there. If we can log in. That's not every vendor. So it varies based on how locked down. Like Fortinet, for example, is heavily locked down. Like it's super. Some of the platforms are super weird too. Like the hardware is super weird.
Oh, geez. Renzero's telling me one of my Ubiquity devices is end of life.
Yeah, that's
And
that's important, and that's something we built into our product. Is we tell you if something's end of life.
I
That's
suspect
huge.
it is because it's seeing it as Debian Linux 11. Like it does tell me it's Ubiquity,
Yep.
but it also says the OS is Debian Linux 11. So I wonder if it's just triggering that off the OS.
Yeah. So like what we would do is we would crawl and scrape all of the vulnerability, all of the like version information for the firmware and any firmware images that we could download, and we'd index those in a database. And then we can say, are you on the latest version or not? So we know that. And then we can say, is your firmware, if we can get a firmware image from it, we can say, is your firmware that you're running the same as the firmware that came from the manufacturer? So we call that integrity checking. Then you can do baselining, which I mean, without our product, like I'm going to pitch on our product. These are things you should do with these devices that you want to know. Did someone tamper with my firmware? Well, you can also do baselining. So you can say, take a snapshot here and tell me if it deviates. So it's like Tripwire, but for devices.
Yeah.
This is, to me, is
Yeah.
all more important than vulnerability management. Right? This is threat. This is
Yeah,
basically all boils down to
it's
threat
system
detection.
management,
Yeah.
right? It's vulnerability management is just one component of system management. Yeah.
I wonder if VM is telling you if your Windows 10 installs, the hardware is compatible with Windows 11.
Good question.
Because apparently there's not great tools from Microsoft to do this in the enterprise.
Yeah, it's I've got a few devices that have TPMs, but apparently like the TPM is too old or something like that.
Correct.
Like I haven't found anything that can like I just have to attempt the install. That's the only way I've been able to figure
and
out.
so on the device it'll tell you. So Microsoft has the knowledge and can query your system and tell you if you're eligible, your hardware is eligible for the upgrade. But from what I understand, they don't make great tools to do that across your enterprise. Like you have to do a lot of manual work with SCCM or Intune to be able to go like query that data,
Yeah.
which is, I don't know. Like I would think Microsoft would want to make that easy.
You
Or
would
do they
think.
just want you to say, "Oh, it's Windows 10, you should be 11"? Like, don't worry. But you still
They
got to know
don't-
if the hardware is
yeah.
going to support it or not, because then you're going to go buy new hardware. And by the way, we did a podcast this week on this topic for Below the Surface, and you should be already probably have purchased hardware or purchasing hardware now, because what
Yeah.
may happen is this perfect storm where Windows 10 goes end of life, and everyone goes, "Oh, I need to buy 500 systems here, 1,000 systems here. Multiply that out by how many people then need to buy hardware, and the pressure that's going to put on the supply chain of your Dell, Lenovo, HPs to go. We don't have we can't keep up with the demand.
Huh.
So back in 2009,
I run my Kubernetes cluster. Thank you for letting me know that.
So back in 2009, I would put when XP was originally going,
Yeah.
I forget if it was 2009, 2010, but end of life was coming. And a lot of people had XP in a lot of places. And
Yeah.
that would go on my pen test report. I'd say, hey,
Yep.
look, you got 800 Windows XP systems, and all of them, the hardware is too old to just simply upgrade
Right.
to Windows 7. Because there was a hard RAM requirement of like 4 gigs or something like that, I think. And a lot of these were maxed out at 1 gig or 2 gig. These were pretty old systems.
Yeah.
It was call centers. The particular company I'm thinking of, there were multiple, but this one was a call center. So they had large numbers of PC facing the call center users. They had to be, I was doing ISO 27000 compliance for them and PCI. So it was back when I was a PCI QSA. And I was like, yeah, you got 8 months. You better get working pretty quick. You're going to have to buy a bunch of new systems here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I felt like that should go on a pen test because, I mean, I'm not coming back in again until these things are already end of life. And, by then you could be missing security patches. Like,
Well, that's
that
the theory that VM
turns into a vulnerability pretty
yeah,
quick.
That the VM, what did you call it? QRT.
QRT.
QRT typically will say that system's end of life and not probe it anymore for vulnerabilities, which is interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It
let's
skips
say
checks?
It skips check. At least when I worked at Tenable, we
That's a
skipped
terrible
checks.
idea. You want to do extra checks. instead of-
Because what if I'm paying for the extra support on Windows 10, and am I actually applying patches? You can't just skip it because it's 10.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Microsoft will do extended support for a stupid amount of time for some of these.
Right. From a hardware firmware security perspective too, updating your hardware has huge security benefits. Because now you're going to get systems that have a TPM 2.0. BitLocker will be much easier to deploy and install. You're going to get systems that support secure boot. You're going to get all kinds of other processor-based enhancements for security controls, like control flow enforcement, hypervisor, all that stuff. There's a number of different, like previous to 8th gen Intel CPUs. There's been a lot of security stuff. So I don't think that's why Microsoft's doing it. I think they have other motives, but one of the benefits is we get more secure hardware. You're putting yourself in a much better security posture by updating your hardware.
Yeah.
So please do that now. Don't wait. Order some new stuff, man.
So
Yeah, that's a metric that I recommend for vulnerability management is asset age, tracking the age of the assets, because typically the risk associated with that asset goes up the longer it ages, and that goes for the hardware, that goes for the operating system installed on the hardware, but it's just for tracking tech debt, like and the risk associated with it. I think it's a useful statistic.
And you probably don't want
metric.
to have Windows 10 systems hanging around that aren't getting updates from Microsoft.
Oh,
Right.
good Lord, no joke.
That's
well, unless there's a specific reason, like remember Adrian was discovering XP systems. I used to have to report out why we had n number of XP systems, but in the case I was working in, they were part of control systems, and the software they used and ran only ran on XP, but we also had other mitigating factors, but we knew about them. In
Yes.
Adrian's case, that's not the same. It was talking about a use case where they were just treated as general desktops, and you can roll that to any version. If you got old stuff, you need to know why, and you need to be planning ahead. Lifecycle replacement is one of the harder conversations because it's resource and funding intensive. It's getting easier to do. If you drink the vendor Kool-Aid for where basically everything is not local anymore, but it's still a pain in the ass. There are people that will sit on their new computer without transferring it for months if you let them. By the way, Adrian, I was looking at my small business CrowdStrike dashboard. I have I have SOAR, I have SIM, I have a whole bunch of functionality in there beyond. It's not just AV.
Do you have the vulnerability management piece?
I think so, yeah. Because let's
Very
see here.
cool.
I was just looking at the whole thing. It's got counter adversaries. It's got Foundry, asset inventory, all kinds of crap. It's crazy.
Yeah, the stuff on the website. I'm
All
looking at
kinds
like
of
the
crap.
comparison between the different versions of Falcon Host, and
Yeah.
it doesn't list vulnerability management as one of the
Yeah.
features there. I
But
wonder
if
if
I
it's
look at
baked
the
into.
activity, I see it. I see an option to see, what adversaries are in my network. I can do USB management. I can do USB to reporting on USB activity.
So the Falcon Complete has a component called Falcon Discover. Identifies unauthorized accounts, devices, IoT, OT systems, and applications in your
I
environment.
know I don't have the
So
Discover piece.
this
I
is-
just have the EDR piece, but I've got a lot.
And this is becoming more common where your EDR AV tool will scan the network around it to do asset discovery and
I
identification.
wonder what the uplift is. Mind you, I'm paying like, for 5 nodes, I'm paying like 150 a year or something for CrowdStrike.
Oh, wow.
That's not
That's a
bad at
good
all. Jesus, how'd you get that?
So it was a small business deal they put out. And it would normally be 250. So, and with folks like us, 5
You have
isn't
the
very
SIM
many,
piece?
but yeah, it was included.
What's that cost now? You got a deal. I remember you telling me about that deal.
It probably
Oh,
about
shit.
250, but I'm,
250
that's where
a year
you
for
make
how many
buddy
how
up
many
with a CrowdStrike vendor at the next conference you're out. I mean,
how many hosts do you get?
5.
5, you said?
5. So
I need
and
way
so
more.
I've got it
I need
on.
way more than 5.
That's
Well, I know, but I'm like, I'd like go buddy up with CrowdStrike at a
Yeah.
when you find them, because that kind of pricing for a small business is like, hell, that's cheaper than whatever. Like, fill in your favorite AV vendor, and I picked AV on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, compute for my family is like my 2 older sons have Windows computers. They actually have Asus ROG Allies that they use as their desktops.
Right.
I swapped them
there's
out because there's less hardware. I don't have to maintain the hardware, and the ROG Allies are made for gaming. That's mostly what they're doing on them, and doing browser stuff. And they run Windows 11, Secure Boot's enabled. But I don't, other than Defender, I don't have much on there. So
Defender isn't like what it used to be. Defender's
Yeah.
decent, but I would add this to it. I like I said, it's just an interesting option. If you can get it for that kind of a price. I mean,
right.
I was required to provide my EIN for my business.
Yeah, I have that.
Everybody who doesn't have an EIN, put your hand up.
Right.
Exactly.
Everyone should have one.
But that's like I said, I
Not only
thought,
can you get qualify for CrowdStrike, but you can also shop at Restaurant Depot.
there you go.
All I need is a business IN.
Wholesale.
Yep.
yeah.
Um,
Wholesale required. You get a free membership if you have an EIN. So there's
yeah,
also other things. You can go to New York and go to the garment district.
There's a lot of benefits.
yeah.
Are you guys 3D printing anything cool?
I haven't used my 3D printer in a while. I was using it
Oh,
almost
dude.
every day.
Yeah, it should be running all the time, right?
Yeah.
What do you have, Adrian?
I've got a P1S.
Okay.
I've
Yeah.
got a bamboo P1S.
I've
I've
got
got
the
a
A1 Mini,
P1S
yeah.
and an X1 Carbon and some minis. But springtime is here, so I'm printing a sunflower thing for my wife.
What
for
does
the
that
garden.
do? Does it do anything, or is it just pretty?
It's supposed to spin. I think these things are
Oh,
designed to
yeah.
like spin in the wind.
Like pinwheels?
Yeah. So you need the small one and the big one, and then these two.
Right.
And so these I'm printing in PET G, but my problem is I ran out of black PLA filament.
Oops.
And bamboo won't, because I think the inside of this sunflower is supposed to be black.
Yeah.
But it won't mix PET G and PLA because they don't like each other.
Oopsie.
So
Yeah, they really don't.
So how big are
placed-
those?
I placed an order.
It looks like
So this
8
plate
inches
is
across?
roughly 200 millimeters by 200 millimeters.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's almost the size of the plate.
Oh, I see that. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so those are actually not just flat; they're tubes that are
Yeah.
angled, so as the wind hits them,
Yes.
it'll spin.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
right.
seen they're on an
Clever.
angle. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
It is really cool that you're 3D printing it, but then you're going to get done. You're going to get it assembled. And you're going to say, "Now I want the one that's 18 inches across."
Yeah, You just
That's
need
what
a bigger
every man
3D
says.
printer, right?
You know, you can
My
cut it
wife
down.
wanted these in like copper too. She wanted like a copper looking one,
Yeah.
and I think I have some wood filament that might look cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I
The,
had to buy more. I had to buy more filament.
Just
Yeah, you could spend 4 hours 3D printing those, and a couple of hours of your life getting everything working right, and
Yeah.
babysitting the 3D printers, or you could spend the $4 on them for on
I know, right?
on
well,
Temu.
you get the 18-inch one for about $34.99 at Costco, but
But if
you
you need
don't
black-
get the advantage of doing all the stuff you're doing. Oh, nice.
So this is 10 kilograms of black filament,
For
wow.
85 bucks. That's not bad.
$84 on AliExpress.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. And
So I have not printed with this. Some of my friends have printed with this and says it works great. And there's a Reddit. I think it's a subreddit called 3D Printing Deals, and they typically
Yes, it
recommend
is.
this. Yeah, this King Rune. This is PLA black because I ran out of black.
now I thought your homework assignment was printing with the wood filament.
I have a bunch of wood filament.
Oh, okay.
Wood filament. What?
Well, it's wood.
Yeah.
So
Wood color.
Andy was talking about one that had actual wood in it.
Yeah.
I have
right.
several
Like that
rolls
stuff
of,
they use for decking that's like a mix of plastic
Yeah.
and wood or something like that.
Yeah, it's what it is.
Yeah.
PLA plus wood, so it can.
but I
stick
have a
together.
bunch of the wood colors from Sunlu. I just placed another Sunlu order too. because they had refills for $12.99 from Sunlu that'll go on bamboo reusable spools or their reusable spools,
Mm-hmm.
which I have a bunch of now. So I'm like, well, these empty spools are sitting there taking up space. I need to use them, so I bought refills.
Good.
So I do a lot. I do a lot of printing.
You know, if you don't buy the refills, you're going to wind up with a drawer full of spools that'll be there forever.
You just sit there, right? So I'm
Right.
like, I might as well put something on them.
And it's
So-
not like the nuts and bolts that you can pile in a jar in the garage. It's they're a lot larger.
And then, so then my kids are constantly losing earbuds,
Mm-hmm.
and so I bought 10 Air Pro 6s from AliExpress for $3.45 a pair.
Oh man, they're gonna be the crappiest things you've ever had.
Right, but they lose them. I mean, my son was walking out to the bus, fell out of his ear, didn't realize it, and it sat in the rain all day.
So
And after being in Rice overnight, it worked again. But
good.
yeah,
What about the over ear clip thing?
yeah, he's had a pair like that too. Those
You know,
last
if you only
little-
had a harness for those, so that there was something connecting the two of them,
I know.
and that way that if one fell out of one ear, it would dangle from the other ear, until you could grab it and pick it up. Or even better, if it had a wire running from that to something that was clipped to you, so you couldn't lose
Yes.
them at all. It'd be amazing.
Be amazing.
So
You
yeah,
know-
I gave up on them, and I've moved to these the Beats ones with the thing that goes over the back of your
Yeah.
ear. Because if I'm chewing anything, chewing gum, like they just work their way right out.
Yeah.
Yep.
But these are
Same,
great.
same.
I
Yeah,
have
these are kind of in between what you've got there, Josh. Like there's no round the back of the neck because that's not easy for me because I got all this hair.
true. I don't. It's easy for me, but my wife is out there. She wears the bone conduction headset, and it works fine. I have the one with this because I'm on the phone a lot more than she is. But like the batteries last for friggin' ever. They're on my head. They're stable. They're really good, and I can still hear what's going on around me, which makes me a lot less nervous about wearing. I never used to be able to wear.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everything's got transparency mode now. I think that's really necessary. Well, also I've got my Meta glasses as well.
Oh, you got
And
those?
nothing. Yeah, I've had them for about a year and a half now, 2 years, something like that.
How do you like them?
And I love them. They're fantastic. Like they're great for calls. Nothing goes in your ears, so you naturally have transparency mode.
Right, same with it,
Because they're not in your ears, the speakers can only get so loud, so you can't really use them in a very noisy environment, like walking through an airport or something like that. You do need something that goes in your ears.
No,
But
you don't. Bone conduction
yeah.
doesn't go in your ears, and you can use it in airport because it's actually right to your bone. But I get your
and
point.
because it's got it's so much fun to play with the what am I looking at? Like you can just ask it, what am I looking at? Takes a photo, analyzes that photo using AI, and it will tell you what kind of bug that is, or what kind of plant that is, or what landmark you're looking at. It's
What
really cool.
information does it upload?
Yeah, the photo.
No, just the photo. It doesn't upload any other information while you're walking.
Well, it's gonna
While you're walking, I mean, it's only using Bluetooth, so you're very constrained. And in fact, if you want to offload any videos or photos, it actually has to stand up a Wi-Fi connection to transfer those back to your phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it must make an exception. I don't know how it works with the what am I looking at, because I don't think it has the processing power to do that on device. So it must be
Are those Meta's
transferring that
own,
photo.
or did they partner with Ray-Ban? Because Ray-Ban has
They
them,
they
too.
partner with Ray-Ban.
They
Yeah,
partner with Ray-Ban. Okay.
yeah. So you actually buy them from Ray-Ban. I think you can buy them from both. I think Meta has a store also. But yeah, the AI in them is so good. Like I'll just be like on a walk or something like that, and as you are like on a walk, an idea comes to you, and I'll just start asking questions and stuff like that, and have a whole conversation. And it's really useful
That
for
is
like
cool.
I want it for like working on computers and electronics, and have the AI tell me about like what am I looking at, what model is
Yeah.
that, what's it compatible with, what are known troubleshooting tips or whatever. Like that'd be pretty.
So they have a new mode where it just stays on while you're building something or while you're working on something, so that you can just you don't have to use the trigger word or anything like that. Like you just have a conversation with it and like, okay, what do I do now? You can
Yeah,
say that,
I
and
was like, for working with
it'll tell you what
electronics
to do
and building
next.
PCs and troubleshooting PCs, that would be amazing. I still have that hardware issue on my system in the studio where that has a 4090 in it, and it gives me some. When I Google the error message or put it through an LLM, it's like you've got some hardware problem with your CPU or motherboard, because I swapped out the RAM and I had the same
Yeah.
error. And one of my coworkers was like, make sure you clean it out. Like, use the blower on it. In fact, I have one of them. I forgot to take it with me to the studio this week, so it's actually charging. You can pick up these things, you
Yeah.
know, the blower thing. These are awesome.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's really pretty powerful, right?
Yeah.
That's a blower,
So-
not a vacuum.
It's a blower, yep.
Yep. If that one doesn't suck, it blows.
It blows. Yep.
Captain, she switched from suck to blow.
Oh.
So, have you all seen Interstellar?
Yes.
Yes.
So you were asking me about projects, Paul, with the 3D printer.
Yeah.
Have you seen this this TARS that somebody built? You know, the robot in the movie TARS, right?
No.
So let me post this in the chat here. So somebody built a little version of the robot that's in the movie, like has the same voice as in the movie, and they hooked it up to ChatGPT, and it is just absolutely delightful. It moves like the robot in the movie.
No.
So, yeah,
Whoa.
Oh,
it's
I
got a
see it.
little readout on the front of it.
This just looks like a. I don't know if this has electronics in it, but this is.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah,
Just search for share screen. But this one doesn't have electronics in it. It looks like this is just like a model.
oh yeah, yeah. This one. So yeah,
Oh,
let me show
yeah.
you the. So you can get the prints. You can get the files for it.
They
me
cost
drop
money.
this in
I was
here.
thinking about subscribing to a site that lets you pay them money and you get better quality print files than what's on MakerWorld or Printables.
Oh really?
I see those advertised to me all the time on social media. You know, along with like Sunlu and like all the 3D printing stuff. But there's like probably half a dozen. Hey, if you really want great prints, like give us it's like a subscription or bundles they have sometimes. And I'm tempted, but I hate buying stuff directly off the ads in social media because I feel like you get crap. And I feel like there's probably a really good one that you can pay for. I just don't know what that is.
So this guy on Hackster, I just put that link in there, documented the whole thing, shared the code, shared the CAD file, so you can build your own.
That's awesome.
That is neat.
Oh yeah, this one has a display and everything, huh?
Yeah, just
It
like
looks
the
like it's
robot in the
full
movie.
size.
You can see like a readout on it. Oh no, it's tiny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he made a Halloween costume. I think that if you're looking at
Oh,
that
yeah,
picture,
yeah, yeah.
it's like a
Okay, that's what
cardboard
got me, but-
Halloween costume.
Yeah, there's the
Which I
Halloween
think is
costume,
brilliant.
which is huge, but the other is small. Okay, it's still that is neat.
Yes. It
Yeah.
significantly is.
It's so much love and work into it. Like he now has a motion sensor in it where TARS will bitch at you if you pick it up. It doesn't like to be picked up. And one of the things was the delay. Like he would ask it something and the delay was just way too long. And he's solved that recently also, where it can be more conversational, where you don't have to wait 3-4 seconds for a response.
That's wild.
Awesome. It's really neat. Oh,
And it's a Raspberry Pi is the heart of it.
whoa.
Yeah, Model 3B Plus. I have a ton of those kicking around.
Nice. That's not even a super expensive or powerful. It's
No.
reasonable.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not doing the LLM stuff. I'm
No.
sure he's using a service
Yeah.
Well,
via
I mean-
API.
I've been
Well, that
trying
way
to build a model that transcribes podcasts.
I'm thinking, if it only needs a 3B plus, if you happen to have something bigger than that, you can just use it as long as it fits.
Right? But I mean, it seems to do pretty well. Like, it doesn't
Right.
seem to really need more.
But you don't. But I'm saying you don't have to go get a Raspberry Pi 5 at whatever availability and price they're at. You can just use the 3 you've got in your over there behind your shoulder, right? Or, you know what I mean. We all have 3s and 4s sitting around somewhere.
Have you guys seen Whisper X?
Yes.
It's a
Are you talking about the
it's a-
OpenAI?
it's a local model. So this guy wrote a post because I was curious. I'm like, so I actually downloaded all of the episodes using AI to generate the Python script, which worked really well. And then this guy, so it was based on like how this guy does it, and he's got a different script that does all kinds of fancy stuff with it. A diarized transcription with WhisperX, but then he cleans it up with the help of another.
What is
model.
diarized?
Diarized is like per speaker, I believe.
Yeah,
It separates
diarized
out,
means that it'll tell which speaker is speaking.
At which time? I think that includes a time because you need a
Well, it
timestamp.
just,
Time index.
the
as well as
transcription
the
says
speaker.
Josh is speaking, and he says this.
Right.
Al, Paul is speaking, he says this, that kind of.
Yeah, but so I can get it running on my CPU, but I can't get it running off my GPU. I get some library dependency when I try and run it on my GPU. And when I ran it on my CPU, it pegged like 20 of my cores at like 100%.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we're doing a Riverside thing. I can't run that right now.
No.
So I
But
get
you
some,
could-
I get a dependency error with the CUDA library. And then if I try and back rev my CUDA library, I get another dependency error when I build that.
Dang.
I'm stuck in dependency hell. It only works. It doesn't work in Python 3.13. I get more progress if I build a 3.12 virtual environment, and then it'll run, but not with the GPU. Which is pretty. So I downloaded all Paul's Security Weekly episodes. It's about 300 gig
Damn.
with another Python script. That actually didn't take that long. And the
Yeah.
LLM, I used ChatGPT's Python GPT. I mean, it pretty much, I don't think I even modified the code for that one.
Hey.
It
That
just ran.
300 gig. That's audio only.
Audio only, MP3 files.
Yeah.
And text files. I had it scrape the metadata too. Yeah, and so what did that end up being? Was it 300 gig? No, only 100 gig. 113.2.
So YouTube already has the transcripts. Like, is there any
Yes.
reason you wouldn't just use those?
Not all our videos are on YouTube. The first 389 or so episodes are not
Oh,
on YouTube.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Gotcha.
So
you
yeah, my
basically gotta
podcast
catch up.
downloads. So I had it break it out by year, and I started trying to transcribe our early episodes.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, like I pulled the metadata. Well, there's no metadata on that one, but I had it parse the RSS feed and give me some of the metadata.
Very nice.
Now that was all ChatGPT, but then the harder part is getting all that other stuff working.
Yeah, it's a shame, truth.
I just want to be able to query it and say, show me all the episodes where we talked about this, right?
Right. Yeah.
Are you doing Riverside from a Linux box, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
it works fine.
And sharing your screen and all that works?
Yep.
Cool.
I mean, I'm sitting on a Mac, but I know Paul. He's on Linux.
I have four.
I'm sitting
I
here
have
on
two,
a Mac now, but I've got a Linux box that works just fine.
I have 2 framework laptops and 2 desktops, all running Manjaro Linux. And everything's great, but the latest update, ask Josh, was rough.
A clusterfuck.
Yeah, it was
An
rough.
absolute utter
Oh, the
cluster.
technical assessment right there.
It was rough because they updated a lot of stuff. It's a rolling release, and they updated a lot of stuff, and they broke some dependencies for certain packages I use, like my mail spring. Um,
I still can't get the friggin' the OBS Studio working properly.
did you try and
It's-
compile OBS Studio?
No, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. I'm trying to fuss
Dude,
with
I
the
looked at the
configurations.
compile instructions, and I was like, I wanted to help
Nope.
you out, but I'm like, nope. It uses CMake. I'm like, nope, definitely nope. I mean, CMake is great when it works, but if it doesn't work, holy crap, is it a nightmare?
That's kind of my point. It was not fun. So I'm like, all right, so I'll downgrade the V4 L2 loopback, and that dropped me into some kind of hell in
Other
the
dependency
CLI.
hell.
Yeah, and it's just never mind, man. I'm just in F it. Just F it. Wasn't
You know,
happening.
sometimes you just gotta wait until the package maintainers and the distro maintainers sync up and fix stuff.
So OBS 31.1, I've done the research. It'll fix it. It's 96% done with no due date.
Okay.
So,
Well, yeah,
so
because
the
it's an
problem
open
is it was
source. Right?
99% done a week ago. Now it's 96% done.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not the way that works.
No. Well, you know, it's an open source project, man, so they're working at their own pace,
It's not the
probably on their
pace.
own time.
It's the fact that percentages don't go backwards.
That
They
stinks,
shouldn't.
though.
Think speaking of, none of y'all are doing VMware anymore, right?
Yeah, I use VMware Workstation.
Because there was just a big update.
Remember, you're not allowed to use it if you have a perpetual license.
He's perpetually not using it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
So,
No,
yeah,
they send
just-
cease and desists if you have a perpetual license. You're not allowed to use any of their updates.
You're
or they'll
supposed to,
sue
yeah.
you.
Well, Workstation though, Workstation and Fusion, they've got that you can just use it thing. But
Yeah,
if you're
I had
using
a license
vCenter
for-
or I don't know if the standalone ESXi is still free.
Gotcha.
Remember they had that if you just
No,
grabbed
it's not free.
ESXi. But remember, I do remember that right though. It used to be if you were just running as a hypervisor without vCenter or anything like that, you could do that. But they really preferred that you license the whole package, of course. Well,
Well, of course.
they're but anyway, so what's getting all the press is the vCenter stuff, but the Workstation and Fusion and ESXi also need updates.
Workstation runs great on my Linux boxes. I have it on this system,
Yeah,
and it runs awesome.
I haven't run it
and I
on
keep it
Linux in
because-
forever, but it kicked ass on
Yeah.
Linux when I last
And
did
it's
it.
free now. I don't have to keep my license up to date for Workstation. They give it away for free,
Yeah,
so I don't have that constraint anymore. And it works. You know, you can use other things, but I did do libvirt with KVM, which performance-wise is amazing. The technology is amazing. It's, you know, usability-wise, you got to do some work for it, especially when it comes to networking. You have to create like your own bridge networks and stuff, whereas VMware Workstation just makes that dead easy.
nice.
Yeah, but and VirtualBox is unfortunately falling behind the times.
Well, it's not virtual, so VirtualBox is different. That's Oracle's.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but I'm saying
Box, yeah.
they're all the different workstation grade virtualization programs have really just meh.
Yeah. I suppose I should probably look at Proxmox for running, because I
Well,
do
you've
have
got Linux.
certain-
Use QEMU.
Yeah, QEMU.
So it's just but it works.
Well,
I
I
mean,
use this QEMU too. So like you use libvirt, KVM, and QEMU. I think all together. I did that on one of my systems. It works. It's friggin' awesome. I just gotta spend a little more time with it. The networking piece was
Right.
weird.
Yeah,
but
I did.
Proxmox
I
looks
did
great,
the
too.
same. I tried putting all those together and just didn't have time to work out all the networking bugs.
Right.
right.
As I have like two VMs that I use. One is Windows, and I use that for times when I need Windows or I need to update like the driver on my camera, and it's only Windows utility. And the other one is for Emba, the firmware analyzer, because Emba's build is like if you don't run it on a distribution that they say you should run it on, it won't run, and I don't
Right.
want that extra work. So I keep it as a VM that runs Ubuntu, and it works great. It works
Easy
great.
peasy. Then you've also got it all in one. If you can keep it all in synchronous update so that
Yeah.
you're not running with mismatch.
On my I don't have to worry about dependencies on my system. I just stuff it in a VM and let it do its
Right.
thing. Doesn't mess up
Right.
my system. I probably
which is
should
great.
do that as a technical segment for next week.
That would be
We'll have
cool.
our first technical segment in a while next week on the show, so
Yeah.
Emba's
So-
probably a good one.
Yeah. I mean, you've almost in an appliance mindset there, where you have all the recommended pieces together running in an isolated environment, so you don't have to worry about whether this will work
Right.
together.
And Emba it eats all the CPU. I mean, analyzing the firmware
Right.
it's a hog.
But
So I probably should have a separate system. So not many people use it, but they make another open source project called Embark, which is like an enterprise Teams version of Emba. So
Okay.
you stand up Embark, and then multiple team members can upload firmware to it, have it analyzed, and it's all on a central repository, which is pretty awesome.
But since it's in a virtual environment, you can control the resources. So it may plug that environment at 100% CPU,
Correct.
but you may still have reserved 20 CPUs for your work, and it's none the wiser. But unlike that little process that eats up 100% of your local system without asking permission.
Chrome.
Yeah. Or yeah.
Chrome eats CPU like it's going out of style. I mean, like it's just ridiculous.
Well, that's why
Oh.
that's why I use a Threadripper with 24 cores.
Well,
I have as
even
many Chrome tabs open as I want.
even when we were first doing Riverside, and I was running on my old x86 Mac, it would eat a lot more resources than it does on my whatever rev of Apple
M3
CPU
Mac
on
or
now.
whatever. Yeah.
It's much more polite. I mean, I used to have to shut down VMware and a bunch of other stuff, and no, it's cool. Otherwise I would Cylon, and I'm not complaining, by the way, about Riverside. It's just I'm just pleased at the difference in resources, considering I spent a fraction on the Intel on the MacBook Air than my employer spent on that x86 Mac. Of course, don't ask me to run a whole lot of x86 stuff.
Yeah, but what x86 stuff do you want to run?
In my current environment, I only have one package I run, and actually I really have to run, and it'll actually run in the ARM version. There's enough emulation that it'll work, and that's the package for designing my Christmas light show. How's that for a one-off use case, Josh? I got you, didn't I?
Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
And considering
Meanwhile,
cost me-
Adrian's going, "Hey, what's the package to design a Christmas light show?"
Oh, it's
Give
the
me the name.
Lightorama Showtime suite, and yes, I paid for it. And I've had it for years. In fact, when I had my x86 laptops and stuff here, I ran it on them, and then I wanted to consolidate to one system. So I went through. The VMware Tools was critical because it was everything else worked except the graphics display. And it was the VMware Tools that do the emulation for DirectX and all that made it all work. So I call it a win.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
I can.
sure.
I think I find. I may haven't. I had an old, just the backup. I had an old Atom-based little netbook thing that I could run it on, in the you want it win category in terms of performance. But it worked. Just be prepared to wait a minute or two between clicks.
Oh, dear God.
Well, come on. You've done things where you just want to see if something will work, right? But not necessarily wondering whether it's usable. But you're saying, could I even pull this off?
Right.
get it.
Yeah. Of course.
So yes, in that category. Usable category, no. But hey, I had to try it. It was sitting there in the closet. I wondered if it would do anything, right?
Dude, you're
Yeah.
bad. I get it, and you're right, but that's like, tales from my dad when he used to work on timeshare machines. You
Hey,
put your
I
job
used to
in
work
and you
on
get lunch
timeshare
and you come back.
machines when there was much lesser resources. But hey, it's fun to try stuff like that. To me, I put it in the fun hack kind of category. Just where your career isn't based on the outcome. It's just can I pull this off? That's fun. Not that I don't have any more hair or less hair because of that. You still pull your hair out, but whatever.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, my 3D printing is budget, which I don't do. I don't even have a 3D printer because that budget goes to my model train collection. So that's which is cool. In fact, you can 3D print model trains. I know this.
Sure.
And they're really awesome. But like I said, last bit I spent was on getting one of my engine sets repainted that looked horrible, and they look beautiful now. So,
I was thinking about doing that with fishing lures too.
oh,
It's coming up on fishing season, and you can 3D print lures. I'm like, how cool would it be if I caught a fish on a lure that I 3D printed? Like that would be
yeah.
goals, right?
That would be pretty cool.
Well, but you know what the old farts are going to say? Now go tie some flies.
Yes, I've not tied flies.
Me neither.
I've done
My
some fly
grandfather
fishing,
did it.
but yeah.
It's like magic. So I'm gonna have to learn how to do that.
Bruce Potter teaches that.
I want
Does
to.
he?
He ran
How
a
to
fly
tie-
tying class at B-Sides Delaware one year.
No
Oh,
way.
really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I
I
wanna
never
do
thought
that.
of a fly tying. You know, that would trend in this area too. Fishing's big up here in the Boise area. I'm thinking, you know, as I think about ahead to our InfoSec conference next year, I'm thinking what would be in it. By the way, I still don't know what's happened to the local B-Sides conference. They've kind of gone.
B-Sides Idaho Falls.
No, Boise.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Boise,
So
Boise. I don't know.
if you want to print a fishing thing,
Mm-hmm.
you got to print this fishing rod carrier. This thing is awesome. It is massive. It took me forever to print it. It's like 4 or 5 plates,
Uh-huh.
but it holds 6 rods.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it has a handle and a stand. So these ones on the end are removable.
Mm-hmm.
And then you super glue the rest in place. And then you print the handle. The handle's massive. I had to watch the animation on how to put it together.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what? Yeah, so you assemble it. I had to sand down this piece to get it to fit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this thing is awesome. It's so cool. One
That
of
is
the coolest things
neat.
I've printed. Yeah. It is.
That's
Whoever did
that's
the model
definitely
did a
for
nice job.
for your spin casting, not for a fly rod.
No, not for fly rods. Bait
But it's
casters
still
and
cool.
yeah. Yeah, it comes out awesome.
Yeah, because my spinning rods would work perfectly in that.
Yep.
Um,
Well, we did the Freedom Boat Club thing,
mhm.
so we can rent boats, and I got my fishing license for fresh
Well,
and saltwater.
most importantly, did you get your hat?
And I got so I did. I did for funny hats. I have one that says captain and one that says first mate, and they're actually like nice looking hats. Like they're blue
Good.
with like white embroidery.
Nice.
So it looks nice. Yeah. So I did my silly.
That's cool.
Nicely done, sir. Nicely done.
I didn't do the cheesy captain hat.
So, it's interesting. We've been talking for an hour and a half about various topics, some of which are hilariously weird. But we started off with this vulnerability management thing. And I think we've come to the conclusion that there's going to be a lot of consolidation. There's going to be a lot of movement in the field. And it's going to tie into each other and de-silo a lot. And Adrian, I think you were the one that predicted that, and good job, sir. I agree with you, by the way, 100%. And so I think can we make a prediction that that's what's going to happen and see what comes around in the next year? Maybe revisit it in a few months.
Sure.
I think it's a shakeup in your security stack, right? That we identified that you need to identify assets, you need to do patch management, and do some threat detection and prevention.
So yeah, the general recipe for disruption in a market is you get like almost 100% saturation. Like everybody's got
Everybody's got a
Nessus
VM.
Expos, something like everybody's got a scanner, and almost everybody hates it to some extent. Just does not
And they
enjoy
hate it
using the
because
tool.
of the prioritization challenges.
Right, it just dumps too much data on you.
Yep.
And like even the first time I used Kenna back when they were Risk.io, that example I used earlier came from 2012 when I was on the enterprise. Like they told me I had 250,000 critical vulnerabilities. This was Nexpos back then, and it just turned out Microsoft update. Or Microsoft Office needed to be updated, and we had a really old version of the Java runtime
Yep.
on our gold image for like 9 people that manage real estate. Some real estate website had a Java applet on it, and they needed the Java plugin. And I'm like, why couldn't it tell me that?
Yeah.
Why can't it just like take
Distill it
all
down.
these CVEs and tell me what I have to do about it? You know,
A lot of them,
like,
we started implementing features like that in them. Were they not good? Did they never complete them? They were moving in that direction.
Yeah, so the risk-based vulnerability management tools are kind of at that point now. The tool that Microsoft is building is really good at that. Actually, it's built from the ground up to tell you what actions you need to take instead of
yeah.
here's a bunch of CVEs.
Right. I thought Tenable
and-
had that though built into their product. No.
So I think it was part of Lumen. I don't know what happened to Lumen since they acquired Vulcan Cyber. So they built the prioritization piece out as like a separate product or like a
Yeah.
module you put on top of Tenable IO. So I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's most frustrating is we're trying to prioritize vulnerabilities, but at the end of the day, like we should be looking at it through the lens of the person fixing it. Like what
That's-
actions are necessary?
Oh, and how is that going to affect the firmware market?
Because none of that prioritization matters if that critical vulnerability is going to get fixed along with 100,000 others when you press this one button.
Right.
Like you just wasted a shitload of your own time.
But I've always said like we just need patch management. We don't really need vulnerability management.
Yeah, I mean it's gap analysis, right? It's like finding that stuff because you're always going to have that stuff where what's this really old version of Linux doing here? Oh, it's running the signage in the call center that shows like
Yep.
the average call time, and we still need to discover all that stuff, right?
Well, I think we're on the
There's
same
no
page.
patch management for that thing. Like it's go to the vendor's website, click on support, find the firmware updates, download a
Yeah.
.bin file, FTP it or TFTP it to the device,
Right.
right? And then cross your fingers and restart it.
Yeah. Oh, you poor fool! You didn't MD5 checksum. That wasn't the real one.
Or it didn't. Yeah, something happened to it when it downloaded.
Oh, yeah.
Now
Oh,
it's
yeah.
correct.
I think that's why attackers. One reason why they're going after these appliances and weird stuff is because it falls outside of patch and VM.
They're not being managed.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
It's not managed.
Yeah, somebody dropped a UTM on like a remote office site and or a small office, and nobody's been taking care of it.
I would say that's why Mirai was so successful, right? Make a
Yeah,
botnet out
exactly.
of these things that are vulnerable and use them for your own good. Oh, anyway, but this has been an awesome conversation. It's
Yeah.
unfortunately
Thanks
got
Yeah.
to
for
wrap,
joining
but this
today,
has been
guys.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's
this
been
was
a
a
lot
lot
of
of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to come hang out with those live
Oh.
stream. Thanks. Go ahead, Adrian.
Lee, so I looked up the Boise thing. They are still alive. You can email info@besidesboise.com to contact them. So Shane, Josh, and Angela are still involved with it.
There's a lot of great B-sides out there.
Oh, hell yeah.
I want to go to B-sides Tampa. I missed it though. I think it just happened.
Besides, Knoxville's pretty good.
Yeah,
Oh, I heard
B-sides
great things
Knoxville.
about Knoxville.
We just had our 11th on May 9th and went off
for
without a
what-
hitch.
Whatever reason, flights to Knoxville are like outrageous from Providence. It doesn't matter if you fly
Yes.
to Providence or Boston. I can't
So-
get to. I wanted to go there for our family
I
vacation.
don't know why, but Nashville will be cheaper for you,
Yes.
and Chattanooga will be cheaper for you. If you have access to Allegiant, it's a lot better. Allegiant's the
Yeah.
only cheap way to fly in and out of Knoxville. I don't know
Yeah.
why it's so expensive.
It's not just expensive, but the flights are very limited as well, which is weird. Well, I guess it's not weird. You look at what's going on in the airlines today. But how far of
Yeah.
a drive is Nashville to Knoxville?
3 hours.
Okay,
Chattanooga's 90 minutes.
so you got to build a little road trip into your trip.
It's a little one.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal. Come on.
No,
You
I
can
mean,
do it.
well, for Rhode Islanders, dude, that's a long drive.
Yeah. Yeah, so we don't really Allegiant has a few direct flights that are further, but yeah, generally like DFW, Newark, like that's as far as Chicago, that's as far
Yeah.
as we go. Like I
Yeah.
think we do have directs to Boston now, last time I checked.
Yeah,
So I don't know
there
if
must not
Logan
be
would
that
be a
many.
better option.
I was looking kind of last minute for like 5 people, and I was like, oh my god, it either didn't exist or was expensive. But
Yeah.
I do want to. Knoxville is on our list to go because what's east in the mountains? There's you've been there, right?
Asheville.
Yeah. There's a-
The remnants of Asheville after they got hit by
Yeah.
a freaking hurricane.
No, but in Tennessee, Is it east of Knoxville in the mountains? There's a bunch of things to do.
Well,
Oh
there's
yeah,
like-
Great Smoky Mountains.
Yeah.
We've got Gatlinburg. We got
Gatlinburg, that's what it
Dollywood.
is.
We got
Yes.
Pigeon Forge.
ridiculous amounts of things to do. It's a really amazing
Gallenberg
area,
looks
honestly.
awesome. Looks awesome. I want to
Yeah.
take my
Yeah,
family
Pigeon
there.
Forge or Dollywood was the theme park of the year
Really?
last year
Was it
in
really?
2024. Yeah, over
And that's in
Disney.
that
Yeah.
same area.
Yep. Yeah, and they have
Yeah.
Splash Country there too. So there's like a
Yep.
water park. Yeah,
Yep,
there's a
we're
ton of
looking at all
stuff.
Disney's not cheap, man. People can afford Dollywood.
that. Correct.
Exactly.
Busch Gardens
Exactly.
was great. We did the Tampa, so we did Tampa instead because I could get to Tampa easily and pretty cheap actually. And we did Busch Gardens, and it was awesome.
And you didn't stand in line for 90 minutes for each ride?
No, it was awesome.
Or spend $4,000 a day for the VIP tour?
Yeah, dude, it was way less than that. I don't remember what it cost for the family of 5, but it was nowhere near Disney price.
Got it.
And the rides were great. The park was great. It was awesome.
Yeah. We go to the county fair. Like, not even joking.
Yeah.
Like, my kids look forward to it every year. They love it.
They had beer.
So do we.
They had beer. You know, Magic Kingdom. Last I was there, Magic Kingdom wasn't serving alcohol.
They do in various places, but it's
Do
very
they?
specific
Yeah.
places. All right. I got to run, guys. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, that will do
Same
it
here.
for today's live stream. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
You bet.
Yeah,
Bye.
nice. See ya.